DeVonta's out here working on the Jugs machine.
Good.
What's the breaking news?
Yeah.
What's the plan for him moving forward as he works on the knee?
Yeah, he just being in the training room, working to attack the training room and get himself healthy and just be mentally in it when he's out. So the meetings are huge for him just to stay mentally sharp, and he is very mentally sharp. And so he's really into the meetings, really into practice of watching it while he's not able to participate.
Nick, now that it looks like Zach Ertz is going to be here, how much more involved will he be in the game planning going forward in practice and even in the games?
Game planning, we're not even close to thinking about that yet. It's just we're repping a set of plays that we think's good for our group, and you can see as you watch practice, we throw the ball to the tight ends quite a bit, right in between those. And, you're watching it. You see where we're kind of throwing it to them, and so just seeing again what Zach can do and what all the tight ends can do, and really, really impressed with Zach and his ability. He's just he's been such a productive player in this league for so long, and you see it on game tape from afar, right? But then when you get to be able to go to practice and see in meetings, like he's just a very instinctual player and a very smart football player. So we want to use those strengths that he has right there to be able to find holes in the defense, because he just has a supreme feel that is very typical among good players.
Boston Scott's been very involved in your offense so far. How do you think his skill set fits what you want to do, and what are your impressions of him been?
Yeah, I think he's a great leader and really good for the running back room. I think he's high respect amongst his teammates. Love that he knows what to do at all times. And yeah, he shows ability in the backfield, in the run game and in the pass game, whether that's protecting or splitting out wide. So guys that are multiple with what they can do and not just a one-trick pony to say, they're hard to defend. And so I'm glad we have Boston, because he seems like he can do a lot.
What's your experience with the use of analytics in terms of player evaluation, how you run your offense, and also on game days, and how much do you plan to use it?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. I think it's just a piece of the puzzle, right? You study, like when you're evaluating. I'll talk about more so the game planning of a team. You game plan a team. There's a lot of thought process that goes into that. You're watching that first and second down cut up. You're watching that third down cut up. You're watching what's hit on that defensive coordinator throughout the past 4 years. So you're putting in a lot of time studying tape. And then there's these numbers that you have on that can either back up what you look at those. You study the tape first. Then you get this analytic piece of it, and you're like, what do the numbers say? Oh, that's exactly what I was seeing. And sometimes it's, hey, I didn't see exactly that. Let me go back and rewatch that and see if those numbers are telling the truth. So when you're game planning an opponent, it helps you out tremendously. But again, it's just a piece of the puzzle. I think a wise man avoids all extremes. You don't want to be like, I'm just putting all my eggs in this basket, or I'm just putting all my eggs in this basket. You use all the pieces available to you to help put your team in the best position. And then as far, I think you asked about just on game day, again, that's the same thing. We use that. It's great information to help us be able to call the game, right? We have a plan for third down. Hey, we want to run this and this and this and this in this order. But that can change, right, based off of what the defense is doing. And that's the same thing with analytics. Hey, this is what the charts are saying to do this and this and this and this. But there's a human feel to it as well. And so you want to avoid the extremes, but use the information that's given to you, because it is valuable information that can help you win and lose football games.
Will you have one coach or staffer designated as the guy that will feed you that information, and do you know who that is yet?
We do. We'll have somebody feeding me that information, and it's a group effort. There's a couple guys that are involved in that to help me out with that, and so yeah, again, group effort. But
when the pads go on, we see there's always things get chippy. There's fights. What's your philosophy? I mean, do you tell them no fighting? Do you kind of accept it as part of the deal? What's your message to them about that?
We want to. This whole thing about connecting, right? That's a big piece. Again, the best teams that I've been around are the tightest teams. Now, does that mean that, like, I haven't fought, like I'm tight with my brothers. That doesn't mean I haven't gotten fights with them. So I'd rather them not fight, and they know that, but we'll handle that as it comes. And you know, because the fighting too, there is a part of, it's going to get chippy out there when the pads come on. We all know that. But you also have to, in this game, you have to keep your cool to play the next play, right? And you can't do things that hurt your team. Fighting gets you penalties. Fighting, right, gets you to think about the fight rather than the play, right? Which is what we got to focus on. So again, just like practice is, it's a great preparation for the game. So if there is a fight, it's a great teaching moment. But we'd rather not have that happen and have that hard competition still. But things happen at practice, and we'll handle them as they go.
Kind of matching Jeff's question with analytics and Ed talking about Zach Ertz, different personnel groupings. Have you found sort of a default setting throughout analytics where one personnel grouping is more successful than the other, or is it typically about the players?
I think it's about the player. That's a great question, because there is sometimes that it comes back, and you also in analytics, you want to know what the sample size you're working with too is, right? You know, you get one game of analytics and it says this team's not good against 12, or this team's really good against 12 personnel. Well, who were those guys in 12 personnel that they were playing against the last time, right? So you got to think it's always about the players first. That's regardless of the, you know, when we talk about game planning, that's regardless of whether you see a great play on tape or the analytics tell you something. It's still, you know, I guess the old saying goes, it's about the Jimmies and Joes, not the X's and O's, right? It still comes down to that player. That was taught to me a very long time ago by Larry Karras, my college coach. It comes down to that player. The analytics may say something, the tape may say something, but if they can't cover Zach Ertz, then we're going to Zach Ertz regardless of what it says, right? So that there's again, we use all the information given to us, but first things first, it comes down to the players.
What's the thinking with DeVonta down? There's opportunity for some of these wide receivers. Who's a receiver or two that has stood out to you so far in camp?
I've been very pleased with the entire group. I think that it's, you know, Kevin Patullo keeps coming up to me and he keeps saying, we didn't have this speed in Indy. So it's like, he's like, and we sure as heck didn't have it right away. And so it's like, we're seeing that we got some guys that can really run. And so I'm really excited about that. You know, you saw Quez yesterday go deep, and Jalen did a great job of finding him through a perfect ball out there. And so really excited about the group as a whole, because I really feel like we have, like Howie and his staff have done such a good job of getting players in here that we can work with and develop. And so, again, I mentioned Quez and John Hightower looks really fast too out there, but I'm really pleased with the group as a whole.
What's the thinking with DeVonta and the preseason? Are you expecting him to play preseason games at all?
Yeah, I mean, we're not putting a timetable on any injuries. We just want him to attack this, you know, his rehab and get ready as soon as he can. You know, we want him to have as many reps as he possibly can. This is a different game. NFL and college football are different games. So we want him to get as many reps as he can, and we'll play that day by day, week by week.
From a picture perspective with the preseason, I know it's still a week away, but this is our first exposure to you. Are you going to try to get more guys in there? Are you more conservative when it comes to the preseason?
Yeah, it's case by case. It's case by case, and we'll talk through every guy and what their experience is, and it's just like, you know, you don't treat every player the same, and it's truly case by case, and what we want to show and what we don't want to show. Those are discussions that we've had. We've had our game plan for our preseason done, because my philosophy is, hey, let's get the scripting done. We can always adjust it. Let's get the game plans done for the preseason. We can always adjust it, so that when we're here with the players, right, we're not up all night thinking about what we're going to run against the Steelers or the Patriots or the Jets. We're thinking about, our sole focus is, how do we get our players better? That's all that matters, is how we get those players better. So again, there will be adjusting of those game plans and talk through all that, but really every day we're just focused on how we're getting our guys better.
You design an offense around Jalen. How much do you take stuff you did with Indy in your career, and also maybe concepts he was comfortable with in college, and even suggestions from him?
Yeah, with quarterbacks particularly, I always want to hear what they're comfortable with. We always want to hear that, because it doesn't matter what play I like. It doesn't matter what play Shane likes or Kevin or Brian, right? It doesn't matter what plays we like. Are our quarterbacks comfortable operating the play? Because they're the ones doing it. So it's a combination of all those things you said. Yes. Hey, here's a group of plays we ran at Indy, for instance, right? Take a look at them. Let's look at them. Let's get some reps in them. What have you done? And we saw you run this play. Do you like that? Okay. Well, here's one that maybe we ran when I was in San Diego or Kansas City. And you're finding what feels good to him and what feels good to the quarterback room, and you're trying to get reps of that. And there's a lot of carryover. You know, there's a lot of carryover from teams. There's a lot of teams running similar plays to each other. So again, it's a process to figure it out. And the practice, you know, there's one thing of liking it in the meeting room and then coming out and executing it. So a lot of that's to be determined, as well as how we practice on the field.
What do you see from Joe Flacco, both, you know, in helping out Jalen Hurts and also, you know, on the field and everything? How's he been doing?
You know, when we're in coaches meetings, I think the pretty common, I'll try to give you some insight when we're in a coaches meeting, right? A pretty common term when we're talking about Joe is like, man, he's played a lot of football. You know, and it shows, right? And that's why we say it. It's just not a blank statement that we're making, because he has played a lot of football, but it shows, like, you know, it shows. I think about this play that he had the other day. We had a situation that happened at the beginning. There was emotion. We had to freeze everybody because two guys were in motion at once. Great situational football by our team, smart football IQ. He stopped it. He put the guy back in motion. The guy came off the edge on the right edge. He stepped up in the pocket with excellent fundamentals and ball security, and then he threw the ball on the sideline to Tyree Jackson over here. Perfect throw, put it out in front of him. So there was all these things like, man, like that was like, man, this guy's played a lot of football, and I think that's a really good compliment we can give a guy, like, because that's saying in a coaches meeting, that's saying this guy's really smart. This guy knows what he's doing. And so I think that you just see that. You know, he has a good feel for the offense. He's still getting there because it's a new offense, a new terminology for him. But he's got a good feel where backs are. He's just got some innate abilities that come with veteran players. And so that's what I see a lot with him. And what he provides in the meeting room is just experience, right? That's just another voice of experience to talk through. Hey, you know, because I think I've said this before, we always, any play, you want to tell the guys, the quarterbacks particularly, we like this play against this. We don't necessarily love it against this. So Joe's able to give some insight, like, because he's pretty much around all these plays. He's been with a lot of different coordinators, a lot of different guys, and he's pretty much ran all these plays. So he's able to say, oh, I remember I hit this against the Jets in 2008 against cover 3, and then we can all paint this visual picture in our head, all right, of that happening. And that's just another rep that we get with that visualization.
Who won yesterday's practice offensively?
Who won yesterday's practice? You're saying just in the win-loss record that I said I had earlier? I knew you guys were going to hold me on that one right there. Defense won that one yesterday. I think it was like 27-24. So it's tough now because we're not tackling, right? And so some tap-offs are tackles sometimes, and sometimes they aren't. And so we just got to make those hard decisions sometimes.
What's the overall tally then?
The overall tally, I don't know. Good question. I don't know exactly what it is. The one from yesterday is fresh on my mind. I don't know what the overall tally is. I'll have to ask Tyler, my assistant out there today.
Players you've had today, you've known Jonathan Gannon for a while. Now that he's been in his role here as DC, what have you seen from him? Same passion. Like, I was talking to my dad or another coach yesterday. I can't remember who I was talking to, but on the phone, and I said, and they asked about him, and I said, like, he's a good football coach. He knows the game really well. His energy is nonstop, right? And his ability to not only teach scheme and fundamentals, that's a great combination. That's what you're looking for every coach. Do they know how to get a player better fundamentally? And do they know how to put their players in good positions scheme-wise? And that's what I've always valued in Jonathan. And so I think he's doing a great job, and it's no surprise. I mean, that he's on a 3-year interview with me. I knew what I was getting. I knew what I signed up for when we hired Jonathan. Thought today, and Will you tackle at any point during camp?
Still, again, that's a constant talk. We talked about that this morning. You know, we're not going to tackle today, but you know, that's a constant talk about, hey, should we tackle this period, tackle this period? We're undecided on that right now. The speed, when we have pads on, the players know exactly when we have pads on. That was one of our first meetings. Here's what it looks like when we're in a walkthrough, and this is the expectations of you. We do it just like we would do a play. The expectation so everybody knows. Here's what we want you to do when it's jog through. Here's what we want you to do when it's tap off. Here's what we want you to do when it's thud. Here's what we want you to do when it's full pads. It doesn't say go to the ground, but the players know what we want and require when it's full pads.
When you're evaluating a player who's going through a position change like Tyree Jackson, who doesn't have the experience of like a Richard Rodgers or Caleb Wilson at the position, how much do you weigh potential on that grading curve with what you know the other guys can do and how comfortable they are at the position?
You know, I think a lot. I'm gonna try to answer as best I can. Hopefully, I answer your question. I think a lot of that we're looking. Yes, there's a lot of potential, but a lot of that, like Tyree's made a lot of plays out there already. And you can see his development. Great. You know, he had a route in the first 2 days. He didn't like really stick the route hard and break to the corner. And then yesterday he ran that one that Joe threw over him the middle on him, and he stuck his foot in the ground and really separated from the defensive back. So you see that development, really attribute to Tyree just learning, and then his position coach Jason and Shane, you know, getting him to do that. But we're going to be able to see a lot of that today. You know, it's a physical game, and we get to see a lot of that with his pads on today. Sorry, I hope I answered your question.
All right, we're good.
All right, thanks guys.
Thanks, Nick.